that is Quarantine. And if you listen really carefully, you can hear a low growl. Now, that is Quarantine, and about 40 meters away is Tingana. And they are growling at each other. Now, I find this quite strange that Tingana hasn't tried to sort out young Quarantine. Or maybe he has, and we're witnessing the aftermath. But there's heavy growling going on. Now, we can see it's not Mvula, just because of his back. Now, Mvula has a landing strip that sort of goes up his tail. His spots are very symmetrical from his tail up his back. Means, oh, listen to that. That's Tingana growling. So, he's showing a bit of almost sort of indifference to Quarantine. I mean, he's got his back to him. Now, I doubt he would do that with an adult male. And Quarantine is growling back, but not quite to the same timbre. Now, the reason Tingana might be so tolerant, I mean, this is right at the edge of his range. Now, oh, heads up. Oh, there's zebra just behind him. Yeah, look up a bit. There we go. There's zebra walking towards a 3-in-a-row pan on Cheetah Plains. Now, that's a bit big, unless there's a baby for the leopards. Oh, quick, this side. He's just stood up. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a fantastic shot? If he looks back at us with that buffalo skull. Now, it's going to be interesting to see whether he decides, now that Tingana's not watching him, to slink away. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? I hope you guys are getting screenshots. Remember to share them with us on our Facebook page, Safari Live, or pop them on any of the many Facebook groups that our fans have. And if we look carefully there, you can see that the soil attached to his jowls, his bottom jaw there. And that's from growling, and he's been salivating a lot. So when he's laid down, the sand is stuck to him. Now, we've seen this with Karula and Shadow before, that they salivate a lot when they're arguing. Oh, my goodness. Isn't that... I know, everything's happening. Out of nowhere, this beetle bounced off my face and landed on my finger. I'm not quite sure what type of beetle it is. Ooh. Sorry, forget the beetle. The growling is going on. He just lifted his head. Now, I'm sure you guys can identify. I'm not 100% that it's Tingana yet. It's definitely not Mvula. I'm trying to have a look. It does look like Tingana, but we are quite far away. I was wondering if it could be Shavambale, but I think it is Tingana. Oh, Quarantine's trying to sneak away. So he's taken the opportunity. Tingana is focused on the zebra. So he's trying to sneak away. So I'm just going to be on the game drive for a second. Sean. Okay, guys. Oh. Watch Quarantine. Now, just to the left of him, walking up the road, right towards him. And you can see his behavior. He's sneaking around. There's some zebra. Now, the zebra have spotted him. Now, unless there's a foal there, the zebra are quite safe. Now, if there's an an aggressive stallion. Look at Quarantine, he's scent marking. Cheeky little devil. He scent marks and looks back to see if Tingana's reacted, which he hasn't. Yeah, the zebra snort. The zebra snorting on either side. So the zebra in front of Quarantine and the zebra behind Tingana. Oof, he's being very cheeky. See, he's now given himself a little bit more distance. Now he's growling back. Well, Terry's wondering if Quarantine and Tingana aren't brothers. They're not related, in fact, as far as I know. But his brother has been causing, or Quarantine's brother is Kunyuma, who has been causing a lot of havoc down to the south around the Sand River. What's all going on here? Sorry guys, I just need to be on the radio. If it sounded like Sean was trying to get hold of you. Okay, so the reason I'm sitting so far away is I want to see what happens, what pans out between these two leopards. So the zebra have spotted and have snorted and they've actually moved away. Yeah, there's actually a foal. That's even a big foal for leopards. So this is really interesting what's happening here. Now, as I said, I think Tingana, if this had been on Djuma, would be far more aggressive and far more active in chasing him. But because it's right on the edge of his home range, he's not. Let's go have a closer look at Mr. Tingana. And I just want to confirm that it is Tingana. I'm pretty sure it's not Mvula, looking at the ears. How's that, Dave? Perfect. Okay. Now, hopefully he looks at us so we can actually see. But looking at the ears, we can actually hear the growling a little bit because we're a bit closer. He stopped growling now. I'm not sure that's Tingana. I'm just going to have it. I think this could be Xivambalana. I'm just going to quickly check his spot pattern. And I'm going to check it with one of my picks. I don't think this is Tingana. I'm not 100% sure. Guys, if you know which leopard this is, please let me know. But I don't think, now that I'm closer, I don't think it's Tingana. And that would make a lot more sense with the behavior. I do not think Tingana would tolerate Quarantine to this degree. I think it might be Xivambalana. And if it is Xivambalana, that's a new leopard for me. Let's have a look. Let's see, I've got a picture here. Now I need a picture of Mr. Tingana. I'm not sure I have one on my iPad. Oh, you can hear that growling. Yeah, I don't think it's Tingana. I think this could be Xivambalana. Well, if that case, it's a brand new leopard. How exciting! I'm just trying to double check. I'm looking. I don't have all the photos I take on my iPad, but I thought I had one of Tingana at least. It must be one of Tingana here somewhere. And so it sounds like our leopard experts out there think this is Xivambalana. So in that case, they are brothers from different litters. I'm just trying to see. I don't think it's Tingana at all. You can hear all the zebras snorting. Well, thanks, Ellen. Ellen Fowler agrees it's not Tingana, it's Xivambalana. Now that makes a lot more sense. And it's a new leopard for me. Isn't that amazing? But I know he's one of Karula's offspring. But how old is Xivambalana? If you guys know, I think just looking at him, he's probably about 6. But if you know his exact age, please let me know. Now, Quarantine must be 4-ish. 4-ish now. But as far as I know, Xivambalana is the dominant male in this area. Tingana does come around the Cheetah Plains camp, but we're quite far to the east from there. Oh, look at that. He's a nice big scar on his nose. So it looks like he's got a 3-2 spot pattern. Can you guys hear that? Can you hear it, Dave? Yeah. That low growl. Yes, no, he's definitely not the same size as Tingana. And when he sits up like that, look at the size of his neck. I mean, you can see he's a big male, but he's definitely not 8-9 years old, which I think Tingana is. So exciting! So these are my first pictures ever of Xivambalana. Okay, now he's sitting up. I'm just going to move the vehicle a little bit. Okay, so while we reposition, let's go to James, who's... So we're much closer now, and we can see it's definitely not Tingana. And thanks to Ellen Fowler and many who identified him for me, because I've never seen this leopard before. Oh, looks like my guesswork was quite good. He was born in 2010, and thanks to everyone who sent that information in. So he's 6 years old. So I said he doesn't look like a 9-year-old leopard. He's not as big yet. So even though he's an adult, he's fully grown, he's still going to fill out quite a bit. Now, he's still growling away. He's very full, nice fat belly. And, oh, here comes Aubrey. He's been looking at Quarantine. I think we're going to go across to Quarantine shortly and see what he's up to. He's doing very similar behavior to what Xivambalana is doing at a distance. I'm just going to have a quick chat to Orbs. It's not Tingana for Xivambalana. Yeah. This is too much Bimpan to be Tingana. Oh, look at that. See that little tail? Oh, sorry, I was watching the leopard, not there. He started flicking his tail, which is a sign of aggression. And that's not at us. That is at Quarantine. Okay, so we're gonna leave Xivambalana. Let's go have a look what Mr. Q's up to. Of course, we're not leaving him totally. We're just going 60 meters away where Mr. Quarantine is lying. Doing very similar behavior to here, which he's quite cheeky, Mr. Quarantine, for a just over 4-year-old male. But as I said, his brother is causing waves down around the Sand River, and apparently he beat up an adult male called the airstrip male recently. Now, of course, I don't know if this is 100% true. This is just what I've heard via the wire. Now, Quarantine's brother, Djuma, there we go. Hello, Mr. Q. Nice to see you too. Although he's not paying us any attention at the moment. He's deeply death-staring Xivambalana. And he's also growling, so we've got the same soundtrack here. And you can see he's a bit younger. You can see he's smaller in the neck. And he's not growling quite as deeply. Sort of a little nervous growl. So we've got two of Karula's offspring. Now, the first time we saw Nkanyeni and her cubs on Safari Live, she was running. And she was running from Quarantine, and there's a possibility that one of her cubs has been killed. And the most likely culprit, we are looking at him right now. Oh, excuse me. So, Shavambale was seen mating with Nkanyeni, so there's a strong possibility that he could be the father of those cubs. But since Quarantine's been in this area, he is probably the most likely culprit if one of her cubs have been killed. And she has run from him a couple of times that I've heard of since we've got Cheetah Plains Traverse to the north of us on Coral. And about 70% of leopard cub mortalities are from other male leopards. And a male like Quarantine is sort of the normal sort of culprit to that. So he's a dispersal male. But the way he's behaving at the moment, it looks like he's trying to set up territory here around Cheetah Plains, but he is a little bit young. And normally 5-6 years old, but attitude's everything. So it could be the fact that his attitude, so not always the biggest animals hold the best territories. It's generally the most aggressive with the cats. What? Have we got movement? Sorry, no, I'm just trying to see if the other leopard's moving. I can't see. I think he's moving. Let me just change position quickly. To the right here, and now if we follow my hand. Oh, I can't go that far. There. There he comes. Oh, now this is going to be interesting. Now, this is going to be very interesting. How is Quarantine going to react? Is he going to stand up to the challenge, or is he going to skedaddle? Look at that. Oh, Mr. Q is taking his cue. But he's trying not to move too fast. He's like, I'm not actually moving away from you. I just felt like getting up. And there's Mr. Xivambalana. Now he's got a full belly, and Quarantine's got an empty belly. Okay, just come wide, Dev. So Quarantine's scent marking, and just stay a bit wider, because if he goes, okay, that's good. So Shavambalana's about 30 meters away now. So if he runs, which he might do, let's come maybe even a little bit wider there, Dave. So he's on the edge of the road right there. And just try to keep them both, because what I think is going to happen is Shavambalana's going to try to get himself into a position where he can charge. It's just not wide enough. There we go. Here we go. We can see both of them now in shot. I'll try to keep my fat head out of the way. See, Quarantine's being quite clever. He's saying, well, I'm walking away, but I'm not actually. But he's doing the same as a lot of animals. He's taking an oblique approach. So he's walking alongside, but actually extending further away. There we go, you can see him just disappearing edge of frame. So he's managed to put himself, he's managed to put himself in a safe position. So it's too far for Xivambalana to charge. Sorry guys, just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. Standing by, Mike. Only 2. No problem. So now we've got decisions to make. So what also Mr. Quarantine is doing is he's putting a river system between himself and the other male. But he is still showing a bit of cheek. So I think if Tingana had been here, Mr. Quarantine would be sprinting for the opposite direction. He wouldn't be behaving like this. Okay, so we're going to go back to Shavambale and see what he's up to. And now, Aubrey is going to go towards Mr. Quarantine. I'm going to try and see if we can get just behind Xivambalana and we can actually see both of them in the same shot. So he's put probably Quarantine in his oblique, I actually don't care walk, managed to add another 30 meters. So Xivambalana got to a stage where he was almost close enough to charge. And that's where I was getting Dave to stay wide. Now, a little bit further forward. Oh, there we go, now we can see. So there's Xivambalana and Quarantine's under those 2 trees there. Oh, of course he goes and scent marks behind the bush. Now quite often, a lot of male leopard fights, and I use fights with inverted commas, are like this, scent marking and growling over a decent space that they don't actually have to physically attack each other. Now, when they do, it is very, very violent. Female leopards are actually more prone to fighting than males. Males like to almost play a similar game to the Nyala, who's the biggest and prettiest. And, of course, there's serious problem if they injure each other. So that's why male leopard fights, obviously, and I remember last year with Scott, we had Tingana and Anderson doing very similar behavior to this. Growling, scent marking. I just remember being very jealous that I wasn't there. Okay. So what Shavambale trying to do is he's trying to get closer to Quarantine, and Quarantine keeps keeping the gap. So while we just try to get ourselves in a good position again, let's go see how James is faring. So we've moved around and we're directly behind Quarantine, and if we look up and zoom now, Dave, there he is. There's Xivambalana. Now both leopards are trying to play it cool, but you can see who's more dominant here as we zoom out, just judged on the way they're lying. So Xivambalana's lying open belly, showing that, and if we look at Quarantine, ears are down. He's trying to sort of pretend he's relaxed, but he's not. Now Safari Hay is wondering which one is bigger. Xivambalana is bigger. So the leopard furthest from us at the moment. And Quarantine is, there we go, that's Xivambalana. He's 6 years old. Quarantine's about 4. Now Xivambalana is the dominant male in this part of Cheetah Plains. And as I said, he hasn't been dominant for too long. And that probably explains his behavior. So if it had been a big male, sort of 8, 9 years old, like Anderson or Tingana, it would be very, very, very different. I don't think they would go through the growling and standoff with a male of 4 years old. They would literally just charge and chase him.
Yeah, Trainer Road. I think I just had the driver check the GPS there. Come along Central.
Hi, Mareka. Mareka is wondering, why is this leopard's name Quarantine? So after he became independent of his mother, he used to spend a lot of time on the quarantine clearings at Djuma. So that's where he got his name from. He used to hang around on quarantine and around the camp. Yes, you. Oh, what has he heard behind? Oh, it's more zebras. Now, these leopard standoffs can sometimes last days. I've seen one between 2 big male leopards go on for about 3 days. It all depends who gets hungry first, and I think in this case it's going to be Quarantine. He's quite empty in the belly, while Shavambalane's quite full in the belly, so he's got the sustenance to wait out the standoff. Hello, Mr. Q. Now, hasn't it just been the most phenomenal sunrise safari in Kahuma and Cubs, Quarantine and Xivambalana, which is a new leopard for me. I know a few of you might have seen him before, but since we've started this current section of Safari Live, I think it's a new leopard for Safari Live. Quarantine taking his opportunity to gain a bit of distance between the two again. Oh, it's time for a little scent mark. See, he scent marks, then looks back to see what the other one's going to do. Yes, very brave and very big, Mr. Q. So if they actually had to have a tussle, I think Xivambalana will have the upper hand with that 2 years more of growth. While we sit here to see what pans out between 2 of Karilla's princes, let's go see what James has got on foot. And there we go. As James said, real live leopards. If you've just stumbled upon us, can you believe you're seeing this at the same time as me? We're on a live African safari. And we're with 2 male leopards who are brothers, believe it or not, from different litters. There's the second one. And they're busy having a little territorial argument. Now, I'm listening to the game drive radio. Ephraim's exact words is, Quarantine, he's tatama chance. He's taking chances, and at his age, he is definitely taking chances. Scent marking and standing off with a male 2 years older than him. But as I was saying, a lot of being a dominant predator out in the African savannah is all about attitude. So sometimes the smaller individuals are dominant over big individuals, and it's quite obvious in lions. The most aggressive is the most dominant. Now, this little standoff has probably been going on for some hours already, and it's probably going to continue on for some hours. Now, Shavambale, a male on that side of us, Anna Marie's just let me know she had a sister called Shavinzi, who's completely disappeared. So, no idea what happened to Shavinzi. She might have moved into the Manyaleti. You never know. But this is the first time I've seen two of Karula's previous offspring together. And there isn't too much brotherly love being shared. Now, Xivambalana is actually the name of a feathered creature. So let's go to James, who's got Xivambalana, the feathered one. Hi guys, sorry, I'm just on the game drive ready. You caught me in an opportune moment. I'll be back here to film Xivambalana and Quarantine. Now there seems to be a little bit of a lull in the growling. Now, it's in these quiet moments where there you can see Quarantine's trying to watch others. I think he's trying to think, is there space to, to put a little bit more distance? But as Quarantine lifted his head, so did Shavambale. Oh, big yawn. And there we go. The growling has started again from Shavambale. Oh, growling at your little brother is tiring. Now, when domestic cats fight, they make a very disconcerting screaming noise and racket. And Sarah's wondering, do big cats or leopards make that same noise when they fight? They don't. The main difference is the hyoid bone, which is in the throat and the vocal box of cats. Now, in domestic cats, the hyoid bone is solid. And in leopards and lions and other big cats, the hyoid bone is cartilaginous. So it's able to move. And so they can't make very high-pitched noises. So it is a deep, bellowing growl. I think the best way to describe a leopard's growl, very deep, noisy. So if you've heard leopards mate before, if you've been watching for a while, it's a very, very similar sound, obviously just a little bit more intense. Now, Quarantine looks... Oh, no, he's looking back at Xivambalana. I think he's seen another animal. It's probably more zebras. Oh, Xivambalana is up. And there's some scent marking. And James Richard is correct. It says it's not a true leopard standoff till one of them blows a bubble. And the reason for that is a while ago we had a standoff between Karula and her daughter, Shadow. And Karula, while growling at her daughter, managed to blow the most perfect large spit bubble. Well, Deborah, the armchair traveller, is wondering what would happen if Karula came wandering through now without her cubs. Well, it all differs than mine. I've got a bit of camera in me. So the chances of Karula coming through here are very slim. This is well out of her territory. The only reason she would come here is if the cubs got killed and she was looking to mate. Now, strange enough, she would probably mate with her son, Shavambale. I think Quarantine's still a bit young, but she would, and it's inbreeding happens in big cats, and it happens more often than we think. But generally, this is why the young male leopards move away from their natal territory. It's an instinctive response to try curb inbreeding. So we've seen quite a bit of scent marking today, and Justin's wondering, why do they scrape their back feet while scent marking? So the reason for that is it turns over the soil, and there's a slight bit of dampness in the soil, and it enables their urine or scent mark to the smell to last a little bit longer than it would if they just urinated on the open surface. They've also got glands on their back feet that they're scraping to leave a scent. No, as I said, I think this little standoff is going to go on for the majority of the day. But isn't that fantastic? What a morning. Lion cubs, 2 male leopards, not just one. So there have been some different answers to the baobab quiz we started earlier. Mongoose, African killer bees. Now, just quickly on the subject of African killer bees, is that every single honeybee in Africa is what you would classify as an African killer bee. So it's our normal honeybee out here, but they are not. And Safari Dean was spot on. It is fruit bats that pollinate, buffalo, that pollinate baobab trees. There we go. There's look at that. There we go. There's another one. So they're probably on their way to 3 in a row plan to spend the day mulching around in the mud. And you can see Quarantine see them as well. Yeah, so you're going to go stalk buffalo. I think they're a bit out of your... I do love this leopard. A bit out of your size range, but... And it is not a breeding herd of buffalo. There's no babies. It is definitely just 2 big old bulls. So around 3 in a row pan at the moment, there's a massive animals. I mean, there's zebra behind us, there's buffalo in front of us, there's 2 leopard right here. Look at that. And he's going to say hello to William on the tracker seat. Oh, is it William? Yes, it is William. Say, hello, William. There we go, William's waving. There we go, a big smile from William, who's Aubrey's tracker. There we go. Here's William in Quarantine. So I'm not sure what Quarantine's up to at the moment. I think he's just going to have a closer look at the buffalo. I actually hear the buffalo rubbing their horns against the bush. Oh, he's actually going closer to Xivambalana at the moment in inspecting those buffalo, and Xivambalana has just got up. We don't have a good view of him, so let's just stay with Quarantine there, Dave, sorry. Xivambalana's moving through a thicket. If I think something's going to happen, I will inform you. So there we go. So Dave's with Quarantine. I want to keep my eyes on Shavambale. Now, this is quite interesting because they're both moving towards the buffalo, who's oblivious to their presence at the moment. You just... so while this is happening, I think what we'll do is we're just going to extend for a little bit after drive to just Xivambalana, and there's the buffalo. Now, he knows he's much faster than the buffalo, and the buffalo sort of know that they're no real challenge. There we go. Watch. Now, that puts him in very close contact. Quarantine. Just hold on. Oh, he's going after the leopards properly again. The leopards have run. They're both on the same side of the drainage line now. So just hang on. There's Quarantine. Quarantine's run away. Now Shavambale is following him. There you go. Stopped for a scent mark. Now they're about 30 meters. Shavambale probably needs to be another 10 to 15 meters closer before he's going to charge. So the buffalo is actually sort of sped up the process. Now Quarantine's scent marking, and Shavambalane's lying down again. We're just gonna hang around for a little bit longer. I just want to see what Mr. Q does. If he keeps walking south, I think. Well, we can see who's dominant already in this scenario, and it's definitely Shavambale. Yeah, Mr. Q is putting space again. So I think what's going to happen for the majority of the day is what we've been witnessing: growling, getting up, walking, scent marking. I just want to have a look for an extra minute to see what happens. If I feel there's going to be some action, we will extend. And you can see it's not that normal little flick of a leopard's tail, and it's going side to side, quite impressive. Sun's up and walking towards Quarantine, so we are going to extend. I'm just going to see what pans out here. Mr. Q is not beating a hasty retreat, but he is retreating. But this is definitely hotting up, so to speak. I think the buffalo have caused it to sort of heat up, and they've definitely expedited the situation. But let's just watch what happens. So whether we're going to go on much longer all depends on Mr. Shavambale, who we're looking at now, depending on what his next move is. He's walking, we're staying. So if he's on the move, we're staying. Quarantine is now moving further away. So now it's almost like neither of them want to lose face. Well, in Quarantine's case, he doesn't want to run away, but he's hungry. He wants to move away, but Shavambalane's going to keep shadowing him. And you might find sometime during the day, you might take the chance if Shavambalane's snoozing to run away, or slink away is probably a better word. Lost sight of Xivambalana. Safari Dean spot on. These leopards are about as aggressive as Inyala. And they really don't like to physically fight unless they really have to. And there he is. And you can see this bout of growling and whatnot has caused a little bit more excitement, as you can see the saliva when he turns his head back towards us. Come on, mister. Actually, got drool hanging from his lower jaw. There we go. Now, the distance between the two leopards is closing. It's about 30 meters. And so we've got Shavambale right here and Quarantine's just over there. Let's go off to the side here. Make sure we've got, there we go, we've got both. Xivambalana has lain down and Quarantine is continuing to move away. Well, thanks to the buffalo for speeding up the process. The only thing is I hope they don't move too far south. Mala Mala is not too far from here. But, well, I think we're going to... Quarantine's lying down as well, and so is Mr. Xivambalana. I think they're going to stop for a bit of a respite, a bit of a standoff. So, from myself and Dangerous Dave, it's been... I'm really happy we got to share it from you. But stay tuned, because we'll be back in a few short hours for the